The day my boss told me I had a choice between being fired or taking a significant pay cut was the exact moment I realized loyalty in corporate America only exists until it becomes inconvenient. I had been with the company for 11 years, starting as a junior analyst and slowly climbing into a senior operations role where I managed vendor relationships, streamlined internal systems, and quietly fixed problems executives didn't even know existed. The kind of work that never made headlines but kept the business alive. When the company hit a rough quarter, my boss, Mark Hensley, called me into his office with that rehearsed tone managers use when they've already decided your fate, sliding a single-page document across the desk and saying, "We're restructuring, Ethan. You can either accept a 35% pay cut effective immediately, or we'll have to let you go." He framed it as generosity, as if keeping me underpaid was a favor, and when I asked why my role was suddenly less valuable after years of exceeding targets, he avoided eye contact and said, "This is just business." I asked for time to think, but he smirked and said, "You've got until tomorrow morning," confident I'd cave because I had a mortgage, a family, and a reputation for being dependable. What he didn't know was that over the years I had become the sole point of contact for several critical suppliers and clients, not because it was my job title, but because I was the only one who understood the operational systems end to end, and I had the emails, contracts, and documentation to prove it. That night, instead of panicking, I reviewed my employment agreement, backed up my files, and drafted two emails, one accepting the pay cut and one declining it, knowing full well I wouldn't send either. The next morning, I walked into Mark's office, calm, thanked him for the opportunity, and told him I chose neither option, explaining that I would be resigning effective immediately under the constructive dismissal clause in my contract, which stated that a drastic unilateral pay cut constituted termination. His confidence evaporated instantly as he realized he hadn't expected resistance, let alone preparation. HR was pulled in, voices were lowered, and suddenly they wanted to revisit the conversation, but I was already done. What followed was not explosive or dramatic, but slow and devastating in a way only corporate consequences can be. Within a week of my departure, vendors started escalating issues that no one internally could answer, because I had been the one coordinating timelines, resolving conflicts, and translating technical limitations into business language. Projects stalled, deadlines slipped. A major supplier temporarily suspended services after receiving contradictory instructions from three different managers, costing the company hundreds of thousands of dollars in penalties. Clients began requesting me by name, confused as to why their main contact was suddenly no longer with the company, and when they learned I had left due to a pay dispute, the tone shifted from curiosity to concern. One client, representing nearly 10% of annual revenue, demanded a meeting with senior leadership to discuss organizational instability, which is executive code for "we're losing trust." Meanwhile, Mark tried damage control, telling everyone I had decided to pursue other opportunities, but that narrative collapsed when I was contacted by the company's largest partner, who offered me a consulting contract to support the exact same systems I had built at nearly double my previous salary. I accepted, not out of spite, but because it validated what I already knew. My value had never disappeared, it had just been inconvenient to acknowledge. Over the next 2 months, the company hemorrhaged money fixing mistakes I would have prevented in minutes, and Mark was quietly removed from overseeing operations after an internal audit revealed that the cost-saving measures he implemented had directly led to millions in losses. HR reached out to me once, asking if I would consider returning in a restructured role, but the offer was vague, temporary, and still underpaid, and for the first time in my career, I didn't hesitate to say no. I watched from a distance as the company struggled to rebuild systems, trust, and morale, while I worked fewer hours, earned more money, and finally felt respected. The irony was that none of this required sabotage, threats, or public humiliation. All I did was refuse to accept being undervalued and let the consequences of their decision unfold naturally. When people ask me now if I regret not taking the pay cut, I tell them the truth. The moment I chose myself over fear was the moment I took back my power. And the company that thought I was replaceable learned, far too late, that some knowledge, some relationships, and some people can't be cut without a cost.